Happy fall November to everybody. Hope you guys are all doing well. It's good to see you. It's been a little while. I'm going to do roll call here real quick. Let's see, make sure nothing's changed on me. And with Josue jumping in, we just hit quorum. So guys, thanks for your patience. Okay, I've got Hal, Blake, and Greg from DTM. Sergio from Salrita, Dion from Marana, Barat from U of A, Jay from ADOT, and Josue from South Tucson. Anybody out of the jurisdictional side of the membership that I missed? Our featured guest is Seth Chalmers from Dibble. Seth, glad to have you aboard. Thanks for being patient and flexible as we rescheduled all these. And then from our team side, I've got Isa, Bree, Jeff, and Jesse, James Tokishi with Hinsu, Dr. Nassi, and Gabe. Is there anybody I missed or didn't get accurately? I think that's all I got on the participants list. Fantastic. Issa, if you want to do the in-kind reporting, I will rattle that off. As you guys know, our regional planning efforts are enhanced by recording time donated by our attendees, volunteers, and participants. PAG collects the data on the time dedicated to our meetings and activities so we can apply for use as matching funds for our grants and federal dollars that we utilize. If you're paid with any federal dollars, if you'd please let us know now, that would be great. Hearing none, our time spent in preparation for this meeting is then estimated by the staff who are knowledgeable of the agenda, meeting materials, and amount of time invested. And at the conclusion of this, a session report will automatically calculate time spent for this meeting. Time spent working on PAG and RTA initiatives, programs, special projects may also be eligible for consideration of matching funds. So moving on, we can jump right to our our first two items, one of which is a presentation from Seth on ADOT Safety Circuit Rider Program. So Seth, the floor is all yours, and I think we got a presentation queued up, so take it and run with it, my friend.
Okay, thank you. See if I can do this right. Good morning to all my Tucson friends.
Glad to have you back in your zone, man.
Or I should say let's see, all right, there we go. Um, should I say my Southern Arizona friends? So anyway, here today to talk about the Arizona Safety Circuit Rider Program. This is a new program that ADOT just started in this past year. I am the safety circuit rider for Arizona, and I'll use my standard joke. I parked my horse outside. So anyway, Amiro G is there we go. I got a good
You
response.
got the token laugh. I didn't see that coming, man. Nice job.
So we'll go through. I'll go give some background information, and then get into the program and the why and what services we offer. But I need to let you know that these services are free. So this is a program that's totally free, and once you get approved services. So a little background, a lot of people don't necessarily know about the National Road Safety Strategy, which US DOT adopted under the last administration, and then it's kept forward with the new administration. But I'm not going to go through the safe system approach, but I really do think the safe system approach is a great way to market and also make people understand road safety. And these are just some of the principles of it. And this is I have QR codes if you want to go and get more information on this. But the good news is the new administration is keeping course on this national road safety strategy. As everybody knows, Arizona DOT redid their strategic highway safety plan in 2024. Here's a list of all the different participants in that plan, and it's been adopted. Its major vision or its goal is to reduce life-altering crashes by 20% by 2030, which is a very ambitious goal. These are the emphasis areas, and just a plug, you can join an emphasis area. There's a team, they meet quarterly, and at the end of this presentation, I'll give some of the contact information on if you're interested in participating in it. But definitely reach out to all the cities and the counties to get involved in these emphasis teams. The idea of the emphasis teams is to make actionable or take action on the strategies.
Hey,
Hey,
Seth, are you
Seth,
advancing
can I
on your
jump
end?
in?
Go
Oh,
ahead, Jim.
thanks,
Sorry.
Rick. Yeah. Go ahead, Rick.
Oh, yeah, I was going to say, if you're advancing, are you controlling from your end, or is it better for Issa to do? Because it hasn't advanced off the title slide.
Oh, really? Oh, man.
Yeah, I've
But
still got title slide.
Oh, well, that's not, well, I'm not very good at this. I'm doing it in my, on this side here.
I saw the cursor move, so it looks like it's active on your
Oh,
end.
have you seen
There we
this one?
go.
There we go. Now it went to the objectives of the
Oh,
SSA,
yeah, I'm
the wheel
sorry.
diagram.
You should have said, hey, man, you're talking about stuff. I have not seen it. Okay.
Mr. Chalmers, if you click on the From Beginning button, it should send you into the actual presentation mode, and then you can.
Are you seeing it now? Is this the title slide?
Title slides up. Yep.
Is it advanced?
N no. Did you double click on the From Beginning
Maybe, okay. Yes.
button up top?
There we go.
Now the second one's up.
Because it should give you another window. But
Maybe if I stop sharing and start over again here. Sorry about that.
I don't think I also captured Josue, I got you on the attendance as well. So
there we go. We can see
yeah, I was gonna say that
the
came up and got it.
presentation.
Okay. Now's advancing.
Yes.
Yes.
Ah, you want me to repeat everything I just said?
Yeah, you're good, man.
Well, maybe not. Okay, we'll go through all this. So sorry. Again, apologize. I'm more of a technology victim than I am a user. But okay, we were talking about the emphasis areas. And you can join the emphasis area implementation teams. They meet quarterly. So I definitely recommend that you, if you're responsible for safety, you want to join at least the team that you think is more relevant towards your jurisdiction. So this is a new dashboard that ADOT now has on crashes that is public facing. So you can get in the dashboard and get in. I believe it's based on 9 years of data, so it gives you kind of a good overview of the strategic issues with crashes in the state. And I think they're still working on improvement. Jonathan Samuelson of Works has been really, and along with Kimley Horn have been pulling a lot of work on this, and it's a really great program. And it's good to see a public-facing crash data. I think that's the trend in our industry. Some of the states like Virginia, they have all their crash data available online. You don't have to necessarily get permission to get to it. The other thing that's really good, I think, about the Arizona Strategic Highway Safety Plan is Dr. David Harden, who's the Department of Health Services for the state. We're really trying to get that vehicle trauma and that crash data going together, because I really think, auto crashes is more of a public health issue than it is an infrastructure issue. We're part of the solution, but we're not necessarily. It's more of a health issue because crashes are violent events. They involve medical care. They're very prevalent. A lot of people get hurt and killed every year in our state in crashes. So I'm glad to see that. And I think the counties or health departments are getting on board on this. We've been talking to Gila County, Coconino County to help promote that health message in car crashes. So why a safety circuit rider program? Well, the reason is crashes on all public roads in Arizona is a problem. It's not just a matter of the state system. And if you look at it, we have 75,000 miles of public roads in the state. Only 7,000 of that is actually on the state system, which is this SHS system. 66,000 are local roads. And the majority of fatal and serious injury crashes happen on those local roads. And you can see the breakdown of the SHS roads and rural roads versus urban roads. So that's really what the safety circuit program is all about, is targeting those local roads in addition to the state roads. So this is the program, a little history on the safety circuit rider program. It's been around since 2009. These are some reports that FHWA has done on the effectiveness of the program. So last year, ADOT went out with an advertisement and double submitted on that, and we were awarded the program in that fall. And of course, I'm the safety circuit rider program. We got going October 1st, 2024, but really didn't get going until the end of the next month. The contract's just been extended, and the advantage is you get a traffic engineer who has 42 years experience and is very highly opinionated about safety. So I can actually say things that maybe you can't say in your jurisdiction. I'm not saying I'm going to be impolite about it, but I'm going to be very direct on what I think needs to be done on safety. And I think I have the experience and expertise to back that up. So this is the full scope that's in the contract, and we'll go a little more on this in detail when we list of services. And I did send to Rick a list of services and how you can request those services. So we have a handout, and I'll go through that in a little more information later. But these are just the overview of the entire scope of services. So it's really more oriented towards technical services, but also training and all sorts of different things that you might need in terms of safety, but they always have to be safety related. So a little more about safety circuit rider program in the nation. There's actually 18 states that have this program. Some have had it for many years from the beginning, like Iowa has one of the better programs, a longstanding program in Iowa, Colorado, Virginia, all have those programs. And about 8 other states have a similar program, but they don't call it the safety circuit rider. So now in Arizona, we have the safety circuit rider program. So very happy about that. You know, Kerry Wilcoxon and Mona, they pushed for this program a number of years ago, and we got it on the ground. So there's also quarterly safety circuit rider conference calls that we can participate in. It's kind of like a support group where you try to exchange best practices and where the programs are going around the state or around the country. So here I'll go through the technical services. Here we have safety-related training and workshops. We're working on a number of training classes right now, guardrail being one of the top priority one, but we're also putting together a safety 101 class. So the idea is to make this training a lot more available and Arizona-based, so we get a tradition of doing those types of training here in our state. Low-cost safety countermeasure identification and implementation, and I'll talk a little more about that. But that's a program that's based on the federal program, the Proven Safety Countermeasures. There's 28 of them. Technical assistance with the HSIP program, so we can help you do your grants. Road safety assessment program support. We can participate in RSAs. We don't necessarily organize them. So if like PAG wanted us to participate in RSA, we can schedule that and participate in those RSAs. Observational before and after studies. We're working with the city of Phoenix right now to maybe do a study for them on that. And then high profile crash site documentation. So that I'll talk a little more about that later. But here's a special email address if you want to request those services. Here's the handout that that should be made available on the website. The front page is the services, more details on that, and then how you request those services. And then also disclaimers. There's a couple disclaimers. Number one is anything that's done on this program does have some liability protections in terms of if there's a road defect case, it's not necessarily discoverable. And the other application is that we got to make sure when you request services that you actually have jurisdiction over that road, or who has jurisdiction over that road. And you need to get permission from whoever has that jurisdiction before we do some work on it. So that's just some of those disclaimer notes.
Along those lines, Seth, members could partner up if they had a split jurisdictional corridor that they wanted to do. They would just have to submit it as a joint effort, correct?
Yeah, it also has to be on a public roadway. So we can't do necessarily a safety circuit rider thing for an HOA
Correct.
road. So it's all public roadways.
Got it.
And if it is a joint jurisdiction, then what we'd ask you to do is work with that other jurisdiction and get their permission and say, hey, we're going to be requesting these services before you request them.
Okay.
And also, right now everybody's really tight on budgets, especially ADOT, without the HERF money. So we really got to be cautious about, maintenance and follow up on those programs. So requesting service, I'll go through this real quick, but this is on the handout. You send it to the email address and outline what you're looking for. Make sure it's within the scope of the services. Then ADOT will review those services. And then if it's approved, then we'll set up a special project number for it and then set a schedule up for it and then just start working on it. And then, of course, once the task is done, then follow up. We're always looking for new ideas or how we've done on that. And right now, we've completed about 12 tasks so far on a variety of different topics. We've done a lot of RSAs already, participated in RSAs. So again, I'll go through some examples of the services again. Technical training, working with LTAP, and then also looking at what AASHTO offers. They have a lot of online classes they offer. National Highway Institute has a lot of classes, ATSA and AWPA, but really a lot of the programs around the country, the main success is providing training to the counties and cities and tribes in their state, taking that training to them, not necessarily making them go someplace. So that, we're very flexible on that, whether it's virtual, whether it's like a 2-hour workshop or a longer training class. We're going to be working with LTAP on how we deliver that. And hopefully we'll get the training program going early next year. These are some safety related services available from ADOT. If you haven't looked at the website, go to the safety, and there's a lot of good information here. And really also you can get access to the Arizona Crash Information System, and I'll get into a little details on that in just a little minute. And then also data. There's a lot of good data about ADTs and stuff like that around the state, and a lot of you are familiar with that. Of course, PAG is a great member of that in terms of collecting great data to populate that. These are the links to the various different things like the Arizona Strategic Highway Safety Plan, if you want to know more information about that, the HSIP program, road safety assessments, at least ADOT's program, the crash reports, GOHS, and the Arizona Crash Data Access Request. And that's really, I'll talk a little more about that. There's also some training there and also resources. The Arizona STEP program, I'm not sure a lot of people know about that, but ADOT adopted a safe transportation for every pedestrian program that's very similar to the FHWA's program a few years ago. So this is how you request the ASIS. So that you have to go through a form, an online form. If you answer yes, it's really easy. You just go right into asking for that access. If it's no, and your jurisdiction doesn't necessarily have a IGA with ADOT to get that data, then you'll need to talk to Saroja on what needs to be done to get that. But I would recommend to every city, incorporated city and county to get access information. It's a very powerful tool, and it's available to you to use. So this is the main screen on Access. You can go into the reports. You can get all sorts of different information about collision diagrams and all the matter of that. And typically it includes the latest 5 years. So like we're 2020 to 2024. Then this has this interactive crash data where you can look at the different areas, first harmful events, stuff like that. And you can really dig down into the details. And this one is my favorite, the crash map. It really helps you make the crashes be intuitive. what you do is you get a map. You can put all the property damage only, the killed and serious injury crashes or the KSI crashes. You can do macro on the map. You can start to drill down into just the fatals. But what I really like about it is that you get into the rural roads and you can hover over these dots and it gives you a summary of those crashes. And if you're really just focusing on the KSI crashes, then you can get more information. You can get the incident report and you can really dig down and do some data-driven safety analysis. And that's really what ASIS is all about. It gives you that tool so you can make better decisions and more targeted decisions based on crash data. To me, I call it calibrating my judgment with data. So it's a really good program. Another thing I think it's really important, a lot of times, sometimes we focus, or some people focus more on the place, and they don't realize that, safety is systemic, meaning you concentrate not only on the latest 5 years, but you look at the history of the crashes and know maybe it's a road and not necessarily a place. So systemic is very, very important, especially on rural roads and curves and roads without shoulders. This is kind of an example. This is what I worked on when I was with the county, where we were looking at 10 years of crash data, really on the VRU or pedestrian crashes, to really find those needles in the haystack in terms of VRU crashes and low volume road crashes. And I think you really need to go back more than 5, 10, 15, maybe even 20 years to really find those locations where you need to do something about something. This is one that was done for the bicycle crashes. So I'm very hopeful that Pima County will be updating this with another 10 years of data with their SS4A study that's going on right now. This is a little more information about the STEP program. And again, my recommendation to any city and county is to set a goal to maybe do a county-wide, citywide STEP analysis of all, especially of your mid-block crosswalks. I know the city of Phoenix has done that here, and they've really implemented a program where they're very consistent on the treatments that they put on their mid-block crosswalks. So they've been working on that since 2018, actually. So they've been very aggressive on their mid-block crosswalks because we know that city has a lot of VRU crashes. This is a little more information on the STEP program. If you're not familiar with it, I think it's one of the best programs I've ever seen come from FHWA. It's a great program. It doesn't paint you in a corner, but it does tell you what the options are in terms of crosswalk safety treatments. The proven safety countermeasures, now the feds just came out with a new one on the rural programs. It's really the 28 focused at rural communities, tribal lands, rural counties. And really, one thing I really think we need to start paying attention to is advanced driver assistance systems. ADAS, like automatic emergency braking, lane departure warning, lane keep assist, intelligent speed assist, and DADS, which is about breathalyzer in your car to detect if you have or you're impaired. And really these countermeasures working in tune with those vehicle-based technologies, like 6-inch wide edge lines should be a goal in our state, because they make the lane departure warning and lane keep assist systems much more active. Basically, the machine's vision can see the edge lines. But these are the 28. These are not in list of priority, but it just shows you the menu that ADOT or the FHWA has in these proven safety countermeasures. A lot of them are low cost. They're signing, marking, street lighting, stuff like that. But that's something we can help you with, discern those and determine where you want to use them. And then also the NHTSA proven countermeasures that work, and those are the more the behavioral enforcement types of countermeasures. So help with the Arizona or HSI program, we've made some improvements. ADOT's made some improvements to it. There's an online form that you can generate your cover letter. Of course, Larry Talley has been around for a long time. And have done a great job of managing that program, and Mural is overseeing it too. So we can provide help with the cost estimating, maybe some ideas for projects and getting that in. I think sometime in early 2026 or mid 2026, we're going to be calling for a new call for projects. This is, I mentioned those letters. These are the online forms that you go through that helps you get your cover letter written and all the different information that you have to go through to submit an HSIP program. This is a program that's coming out and it's due, would be for tribal land safety studies. I don't know if some of the PAG members are interested in this, but this is a program that we can also assist in developing an application and submitting it. The deadline's coming up January 15th, but this is all directed towards tribal lands, tribal safety, and really trying to promote all our 22 tribes in our state to develop safety plans. We know that the GRIC is going to be updating their safety plan using the funds, or going for a grant to use the funds for their safety plan because it's over 5 years. You have to keep that safety plan up to date so you can go for implementation grants. Observational before and after studies. This is a bestseller. Another bad joke by Seth, but there is actually a method to do these types of studies, and we would try to follow that. We might also work with Arizona Transportation Institute if it ends up being a fairly in-depth type of study, because I know that NAU has been very active with ADOT. They have a research project to develop Arizona-specific CMFs. That's an ongoing research project through AZTI. And then the RSA, we can, again, participate in RSAs. ADOT has their program, MAG has their program, and of course, PAG has got their program. And we're also developing a training class on RSA participants and also try to promote maybe other MPOs or COGs or a collection of COGs and MPOs to develop a similar program that like PAG has and MAG has. And with the emphasis, and I think really PAG has shown a great leadership in our state on this in terms of doing design RSAs and maybe all the way through the development of project. I think that's a very effective way and much more cost effective to implement safety initiatives before something's built. So there's the ADOT, MAG, and of course you can call Gabe if you want to request a PAG RSA. The other one is high profile crash site documentation. This is an example of what happened up in Yarnell when a lady, actually a very well-known person in the city, was killed by an off-duty Yavapai Sheriff's duty. It was quite the tragedy. ADOT responded to that tragedy and did a lane diet through. They had a 5-lane section that went through the middle of town, and they dropped 2 of those lanes to make it a more pedestrian friendly. And of course, city of Tucson had an unbelievable tragedy here at the end of October with the 3 fatals at Euclid and Second. So we can provide some assistance in that if you request it, and of course, if it's approved. So with that, I'm pretty much done with my presentation. Here's the contact information for those emphasis areas of Arizona Strategic Highway Safety Plan emphasis areas. So if you're interested, you can contact these people to see if you would like to participate in it, or if you have any questions, you can contact me and I can put you in contact with Steve Never, who's the ADOT program manager for the Strategic Highway Safety Plan. So with that, anybody has any questions, feel free to ask.
I was going to say, we got time allocated on this. So anybody got any questions for Seth?
I see Dion has her hand up.
Floor is yours, Dion. Go for it.
Thank you. Hi, Seth. What is a comment about needing an IGA to access the data? I years ago wanted to access ADOT data and was successful doing that, but it was onerous to continue all the paperwork and training that they insisted upon in order to maintain it, and the password changes. And now they've made it even more difficult by needing an IGA to access the data. Well, hopefully you only have to do that once. You don't have to keep changing passwords and things. But my question is, what about near miss data? I keep seeing information about near miss data and how that improves safety. What is your opinion about that?
I think near misses, if it's calibrated with actual crashes, when you're looking at near miss data, I know that, I forget what company is doing a lot of that near missing now. It seems to be a little bit of a trend in the data collection camera companies and AI stuff. I think if it's related to actual crash causations, then it's useful. But if you look at a four-way stop, or a roundabout, you have near misses all the time. So I mean, it's not, to me, I look at it as a near miss as a success. It's when people bump into each other or hit really hard that you get a bad crash. But I'm really focusing. I've started to really focus on crash data and conflict risk. Because you have a cross movement across an uncontrolled intersection or a stop controlled intersection. Those cross movements, don't happen. You don't get an angle crash very often at that, but you do get that angle crash. And it's like, well, do you really need that cross movement across that major arterial? And we've been looking at this in some RSAs. We have a RSA we're doing in Bullhead City that we have a cross movement across SR 68 on the downhill side, and the speed limit is 65 miles an hour. And, they've had a few fatals, and they've all been related to the cross movement. And it's like, well, why are we allowing that? The other one is left out. Left outs result in angle crashes. And a lot of times you have alternative routes or alternative types of way to do that left turn, like indirect lefts, like we have on Grant and Tucson, or over on Ina, where you move that left turn to a place where maybe it's a little more conducive to do that movement safely, and you don't have as many conflicts. So I think that's, and especially at the counties. I mean, it's interesting that Coconino County and their safety plan that they're developing for Coconino County, which is the biggest county in the state, is their goal is never to have a traffic signal. Maybe a hawk, but not a traffic signal. So they're looking at only having roundabouts or alternative types of intersections where you don't have that, left out, left in. You have an alternative way to make that movement to reduce the risk. Plus, I think Coconino County is also looking at the life cycle cost of a traffic signal. Once you get a traffic signal, you have to have a staff to man it and maintain it, and it just gets complicated. I hope that answered your question.
Dr. Nassi,
yeah.
I see. Oh, sorry, Dion. Didn't mean to cut you off.
Oh, yeah, no, thank you, Seth. I'd be interested in knowing more about calibrating near miss data. We don't have to talk about it now, to actual crash data and how that gets done.
Yeah, we've been working on some things, and I think I'm really excited about it. Where it's more actionable. When you just do a crash analysis, a lot of times we just look at reporting the crashes. It's like, well, how did that crash tie into the infrastructure? What could have prevented that crash? And that's why I'm bringing up the advanced driver assist systems, because we get a lot of lane departure crashes on a road that has 6-foot shoulders as straight as an arrow. And it's like, why are the people driving off these roads? And a lot of times it's impairment, it's distraction, it's drowsiness. So what's the answer to that? It's called lane departure warning, and it's called lane keep assist. Those are the types of, the infrastructure is about as good as it's going to get. And so we need to promote people to buy cars with these technologies, especially if they're going on long road trips and on rural roads. It's like that will prevent that crash, and that's a very cost-effective way to do it. Granted, you don't necessarily have to buy a new car with those technologies in it. They've been widely adopted in the vehicle market since 2016 and 17. Toyota, Honda, Kia, Ford, GM, they all have those technologies, and I think that's, once we get that road in a way that it's got a shoulder, some paved shoulder, and allows those systems to work, I think we'll see our at least our lane departure crashes are being reduced by vehicle technology mostly. And more sensitive emergency or automatic emergency braking. The tragedy at 2nd and Euclid, and this is the new federal vehicle motor standard, is to have more sensitive automatic emergency braking, because a lot of those early systems are not calibrated to pick up a person. They're calibrated to pick up a car, and they also only work in certain speeds. So, the technology is coming, and I'm very excited about that, because it really, will help reduce crashes at behind the driver's seat.
Dr. Nessie, saw you had your hand up.
Yes, yes. Good morning, Seth. Very,
Hey.
very impressive.
Oh, thank you. You're my mentor.
Well, I'm glad something good has come of this. I was wondering if maybe go back to one of your first slides. There was a graphic with public health. It was something about 71%. I didn't quite catch that. I was trying to look at it one more time.
The the vehicle trauma one.
That could be. I don't remember. We were just starting up.
Sorry, I use the I'm being very one-dimensional on this. That's I think that's really important to include the vehicle trauma. I talked about that earlier, but I mean, it was like Gila County has been the leader in vehicle trauma, unfortunately, in the state for many years. They're not always, but and that's a highly rural. Oh, there it is. A highly rural county. So Dr. David Harding has been a great advocate for the health side, and has been very involved with ADOT and Arizona's strategic highway safety plan. So we're looking at trying to, I'm not the health expert, but they're trying to look at how to coordinate that crash data with the vehicle trauma data to make our message even stronger, with the idea that, eventually we'll be bringing that to the attention of the Arizona State Legislature, as well as the governor, to say, hey, we as a state need more money to implement our, these safety improvements that we know work. And, especially that golden hour, or stop the bleed, and some of these other things. And the University of Arizona is doing a big study on blood transfusion on auto crashes out in rural area where people are bleeding and they need to get blood or they'll die. So there's I think some great movement in trying to improve emergency medical responses in rural Arizona. We had Glenn Robinson of FHWA sponsored a workshop up in Flagstaff, and I think he's going to be putting together something with you all down here in Southern Arizona to get enforcement, emergency response, and us as engineers together to talk about what needs to be done for safety. It was really interesting up in Coconino County what the AirVac people were saying. Hey, we need 100-foot clear area to land a helicopter. Plus, we need a stabilized surface so the dust doesn't blow up and blind the pilots. So, one of the things that I think Coconino County is going to be working at, and we've made this recommendation to Gila County, is to establish a 100-foot clear zone on your rural roads. Not necessarily everywhere, but where you can provide it. So the idea is to set up an area where you can land a helicopter at a regular interval on a rural road, because a lot of times that's the only way you're going to get that person to medical treatment in time to save their lives. So that's coordinating the infrastructure with the emergency response. It's pretty exciting stuff. And we also talked about what Pima County did with their speed management program, where you're looking at setting up speed enforcement stations and feedback signs to try to promote those good behaviors. And then you have to work with the law enforcement people on that, and then first of all show them the potential of that and then also then get their buy-in, because I think really, we need to coordinate better as a whole state in implementing these improvements to make our roads safer.
Oh, thank you. You brought up some very exciting point about the triple fatal at the university. Basically, as you know, the driver is being charged with under the influence and high speed. Have you seen any movement from the legislature to allow the easier implementation of red light cameras or the speed enforcement cameras again?
That's a great point, Richard. And then when I went to Arizona Transportation Policy Summit in Sierra Vista, that was, gosh, it was in October. And I don't know how many of you went to it. It was great session. And and being me, I got up during the Arizona State Legislative panel. I got up and I said about, well, we have the Arizona Strategic Highway Safety Plan, and we have a goal to reduce life-altering crashes in our state by 20% by 2030. And I asked the legislative panel, I said, how are we going to do that? Right now, our allotment of HSIP funding is what, about 50 million a year. Is that all we're spending on safety here in this state? I would say by far, and I was talking to Mona about this yesterday, I would say that our safety program to really make a difference in the state every year needs to be about 250 million, maybe even more, because we have such a backlog. Guardrail, paved shoulders, enforcement programs like red light running, not only automatic enforcement of red light running, but also manual enforcement. And when I was at the county, we did those red light indicator lights. We had worked with our sheriff, and they'd say, hey, yeah, we got to do one of these at this intersection because we're getting a lot of red light runners, and we're also getting crashes related to that red light running. So, to me, we're trying to promote those good behaviors. 15% of the people, there's not much I can do with, but about 85% of the people are going to respond to those types of things because oh yeah, okay, I don't want to get a ticket, I want to be safe. And especially in that triple fatal, what is a 19-year-old boy doing with a freaking Porsche? That car he was driving is a $156,000 car. It's a high performance sports car. And is that what you wanted to give to a young driver? That's such a tragedy. I mean, yeah.
It is. And I know that the city had projects set aside and they were funded through the federal government. And it just, I applaud you for trying to find more resources for this community or the whole state for these traffic safety improvements, because the city of Tucson has been waiting to put in those hawks and those toucans at these various locations, and one of that locations was Euclid and Second, but it takes time to go through the federal process to get the money here. And unfortunately, we had a driver under the influence of alcohol or drugs doing a high speed.
Yeah. Well, and the ADOT did the presentation on this. Our HERF money is about 41% of what it was. It's at 41% of on the dollar of our spending power. Since '93, the HERF has not been adjusted.
Oh,
Now, the vehicle tax have gone up. That's indexed a little bit for inflation, but we need to get our cities and counties and ADOT more HERF money so we can do a better job in maintaining our roads. And what's really great with Coconino County and Flagstaff, I've spent some time with them. Flagstaff has a 0.5-cent sales tax. City of Phoenix has a half-cent sales tax. Coconino County has a 3/3 cent sales tax that provides money for their transportation maintenance and upgrades. So, I think every county should, if they can afford it, get a little bit of the sales tax, because I think that's in a city, same way. That's a great narrative for us to go to the legislature and say, hey, we're taxing ourselves a little more to try to do more, but we need even more help, and that's with the HERF, gas tax or electrical vehicle fees or usage fees. We need to really focus on our financing, because, you know, we can set these plans up and have all these great goals, but if we don't have the resources to implement it, we're not, we're kidding ourselves. I mean, we need to, and I think as engineers, and we need to stand up and say this and say, hey, we have the technology to do better on road safety, but we need more resources.
Absolutely. You're just preaching to the choir here, and I'm glad I was your hero. You're my hero.
Well, Selena Bliss, who's she's a legislator from Yavapai County, which, you know, is one of the more conservative counties in our state. And she's actually a nurse, and she answered my question. She says, well, we need to triage the problem and come up with a program that gets us the biggest bang for our buck. So my recommendation to all these safety plans is, let's come up with, you know, in the Arizona Strategic Highway Safety Plan did this with their strategies. They talk about low cost, you know, short-term improvements, midterm and long-term. I think we need to program ourselves out in that area and say, hey, you know, then we go to the legislature and say, hey, we want to fund these lower cost, short-term safety improvements now. And here's our program. And, you know, Pima County, we need 25 million out of that. City of Tucson, we need 35 million out of that. You know, in Marana, we need 12 million out of that. So, you know, we need to program that out and then ask the legislature, hey, you know, can you fund some of this? You know, either through her phrase or discretionary money. And that's what the rural communities have done through that Arizona Transportation Policy Summit. They had a nice brochure, and they made a hard ask to the legislators that were there for CIP. You know, they're mostly CIP projects, but they made a hard ask to try to get some funding for those rural communities. I was really impressed. I mean, if you see what NACOG has done some amazing things with their plan, and also advocating for trying to get money from the legislature to improve rural Arizona.
Good to know. Thank you very much.
Any closing questions? Anything else? No, Seth, really, really appreciate you taking the time, sharing all this with us, and doing especially the deeper dive on it. So, any final questions from anybody?
Yeah, Rick, I've just got a quick comment. I
Go
just
for it.
want to say first, Seth, thank you so much for you know, doing the presentation. This is fantastic. Really appreciate all you're doing there with ADOT and with Dibble in general. Seth shot off the safety circuit rider flyer to me, and it kind of spells out what it's about, how to apply, all those things. We're going to send that out to the TSSS group sometime this week, probably today. So everybody will have that. So just wanted to give everybody a heads up on that. And yeah, give you a big thanks once again, Seth.
Good deal. Okay. Seth, thanks a million, man. I really appreciate you doing this for us.
Thank you.
All right, moving on. Our next featured speaker, James, I assume this is going to be you. Do you have the overview of the DTA model, development, expansion, and capabilities? That's it. I'd like to introduce James Tokishi, hand it over to him, and he's going to walk us through a presentation on the new modeling system we've got and what we can do with it. So, James, the floor is yours, my friend.
All right. Hello, everyone. Thanks for having me. I'm James Tokishi, Transportation Data Science Manager here at PAG. Part of my duties over the last few years has been to spearhead the development of this DTA model. I've definitely spoken of it before, so for some of you, this may not be the first time you're hearing about this. Do I have control over it? There we go. Contents of the presentation, just a quick look at the differences between the static and dynamic traffic assignment models. Then dive into the DTA model, looking at the development process that's gotten us to this point, the current status of the model, quick overview of some of the model components, another quick overview of some of the outputs that we can generate from the model, future use cases that we're hoping to be able to use this model in, and then look at the air quality component that was developed as part of this project. There we go. If you've seen any of our, actually, sorry, let me go back. Yeah, static traffic assignment models, which you've seen if you've interacted really with any of the modeling teams, traffic models and volumes and what other outputs. The static traffic assignment models are what's used in the PEG, trip-based and activity-based models. The advantage of these static traffic assignment models is that they're computationally simple. They can be run on more limited hardware, and they have a fairly limited set of inputs. These static models aggregate vehicle behavior based on mathematical relationships between volume, aggregate roadway capacity, and speed and travel time, usually in the form of something like a volume delay function, which is what our other models use. They also tend to have large time intervals for both the demands and inputs. For example, ours has a 2-hour AM peak period, a 5.5-hour midday period, 2-hour PM peak period, and then the remainder of 14.5 hours is in the overnight period. They also tend to have fairly coarse network representations, such as looking only at the total number of through lanes, the presence of a signal, and speed limits, free flow speeds, and that sort of thing. And again, so given that it has the volume delay function, it has mathematical representations of vehicle flows, capacity, queuing, and other sorts of outputs. Dynamic traffic assignment models, on the other hand, are much more complicated. They are computationally expensive. They require significantly more resources, both to develop the network and the inputs, as well as to run the model. They simulate individual vehicle behavior on sub-second for microscopic models, or several second intervals for mesoscopic models. They also tend to have fairly short time intervals for demand and outputs, with 15 to 30-minute intervals being fairly typical for the applications, but there are no theoretical lower limits to this. They also have much more detailed network representations, looking at things like specific signal timings, exact number of lanes, including turn bays and lane connectivity, and as well as sometimes being able to use schedule-based transit networks, as well as individual vehicle parameters such as driver's desired speed. And I'll get into some of these a little later. They also, because they model individual vehicle behavior, they have physically constrained representations of vehicle flows, capacity, and queuing behavior, looking at things like individual class and vehicle profiles, the interactions between vehicles, and again, they physically simulate the vehicles driving around the network. A very quick look at how those two stack up to each other. If you look on the left side, this is something you may have seen from one of our past models. This is a screenshot out of the static traffic assignment model. You can see this one is currently aggregated to the daily level, but it's just really showing on a directional basis how many vehicles travel over each of these links in, again, that given day. If you look over on the right side, that's the DT. That's a screenshot of the same location out of the DTA model. You're now seeing individual vehicles on the network, which lanes they're occupying, whether they're making turns, stopped at signals. If you look really closely, you can see that the east and westbound directions have green lights, and the north-south frontage roads have red lights. So going back to the development process, the initial model started very early back in 2021 with a initial network from Caliper that was based loosely on our travel demand model network, as well as some exploratory efforts that Caliper had undertaken on their own. when we started looking into Transmodeler, they gave us a copy of everything that they had worked on. We took that network and spent a couple of years reviewing, testing, and updating it. And so in 2023, we had something that we call the functional base network. We then contracted out to Caliper for additional calibration, validation, additional model development. That was then completed spring of 2025. Currently, we're finishing our review of all the work that they did with the network, updating it to the 2025 base year. That one is still a work in progress. The demand for this network comes from the outputs from the activity-based model, weighted by vehicle mile traveled, time of day metrics that were developed as part of PAG's traffic count program. The signal timings for the network are generally based on a 2021 City of Tucson synchro network, in addition to a few updates we received from ADOT for signals for some of their signals, as well as some rough placeholder calculated timings for signals that don't exist in either of those data sets. The transit within this model is based on a 2024 Suntran GTFS network. Looking at the DTA model components, hitting just the key points, the network, we'll look at the network structure as well as how it handles signals, how it handles driver and vehicle parameters, the transit modules, such as the routing and scheduling, as well as the demand. There we go. This one, and this will be the last time I pull up one of the older model networks. This is a quick snapshot of what our link system looks like in the ABM and activity-based and trip-based models. You can see it's a fairly simple node and link system. Parameters such as length, area type, the number of through lanes, link classes from freeway down to collectors, speed limits, free flow speeds. We have flags for signal presence. But again, it's a fairly simple network. Pulling them, is it taking, come on, click, there we go. Looking at, again, that same location in the DTA model, well, of course, we still have some of those same parameters, length, link class, speed limits, free flow speeds. But now you can see that we have also explicitly modeled lanes. We have turn bays. We have the lane connections showing where a vehicle is allowed to go from one lane to another. If you look down at the bottom, you can see the solid line indicating where, lane change permissions. You can see tapering whenever there are lane-wide additions or drops. We have roadway medians. We have dedicated turn lanes over on the northeast side of that intersection. We also have signals, and this one is a screenshot out of the actuated signal control panel. But as you can see in the dropdown, we can do stops, yields, and various pre-timed configurations. For some more complicated systems of signals, especially like those at traffic interstate interchanges, we also have ways to set up a linked system so that the multiple signals operate together as a single unit. Driver and vehicle parameters. Well, first of all, and I'm not going to get terribly into detail on this slide, we have a number of options for various car following models that have been developed by just over the last, history of microscopic simulation. These control how vehicles, each of the simulated vehicles on the network interact with each other. We can also set specific driver parameters. One of those key features is a concept called desired speed, which impacts sort of the reality that not all drivers will do exactly the speed limit. So you can see here we have a small number, 1%, that are going significantly slower at about 10 under, about 29% that are set to do exactly the speed limit, all the way up to, again, a small fraction of extreme speeders doing, up to 25 miles an hour over the speed limit. These are all user definable. And also, just because a driver might want to do some, behave in this manner doesn't mean that they're actually going to. If you're looking at this 1% who wants to do 25 over, if they're behind a car doing the speed limit, well, clearly they cannot just drive through the vehicle in front of them. We can also set detailed mixes of vehicle fleets to be simulated. In this case, this is coming out of this is the mix that's used for our default car population. So you can see that some of the truck fractions are set at 0. Those generally have their own demand matrices. So in this case, we have a mix of high, middle, and low performance standard passenger cars, a mix of pickups, vans, and SUVs, a handful of motorcycles, and a mix of other vehicle classes that are used in other parts of the model but aren't generated as part of this default mix. Transit, can also define the parameters for the transit fleet. In our case, the main things here we're looking at would be the bus and the streetcar. The articulated bus and train are default classes that we're not using, but there's no point in deleting them. We can just not use them. Route schedules. There are a couple of ways that we can generate these, both as just a standard frequency based, or we can provide actual route schedules. In this case, we provide certain time points, such as what we can pull off of the Suntran schedules, and the program will interpolate the rough expected times for all of the intermediate stops. This one here is a quick look at how the transit model looked just as a straight import from the GTFS data that Suntran provides. You can see it's, at least at a high level, it has everything where it should be. If you really drill into it, there are a few places where, maybe the transit route went down a side street that isn't in the model network, and so, or into a transit center that we didn't have modeled in detail. And so this did take a little bit of further cleanup, but just the direct import did get us almost all the way to a functional transit network. And then it's not. Okay. This one here is where it starts getting fun. When we actually run the model, as I said before, it generates individual cars driving around the network at a sub-second interval. So this right here, where let's see, it's showing vehicle speeds as the vehicles travel around sort of the downtown U of A part of our network. Red just means that they're going fairly slow, 15 miles an hour below, all the way up to the greens on I-10. Well, the dots were moving around. There we go. Now, when we zoom out at this high level, it does simplify the display a little, converts the vehicles and their exact lanes into this sort of generalized dots moving around the network, just because, of course, this high up, really, there's no way to actually see the cars as they drive around. If I click the next button and it loads. Come on. Oh, there we go. So pulling that in to a level where we can actually see the cars as they drive around. This one is I-10 in Congress. So you can see, again, light just turned green at Congress and Granada. The cars are driving through there. Cars on the north and south legs are piling up. I-10, of course, is flowing fairly smoothly. Vehicles on within the interchange again are waiting for their turn phases to give them greens. But this is the level of detail that we can really get into. You can also, I guess, see that at a model of this type, specific signal timing, signal coordination information, really starts playing a role. If the signals, aren't timed right or reflective of reality, it's pretty easy for anomalies to come up yeah, anyway. And I wait for it to come on. There we go. Looking at outputs beyond just the visualization, it gives us, this is just a quick look at the output manager, trip statistics, flows and travel times on the segments, delays at intersection, queues, transit outputs, a detailed vehicle trajectory file that tells us where every vehicle is at any given moment in the model, as well as a playback file for easier visualization. Trip statistics, this one is just a very high level hour by hour, but we can always redefine these. So you can see, vehicle miles traveled, vehicle hours traveled, delay, stop time, the number of times vehicles stopped, trip lengths, travel times, speeds over the course of the entire 24-hour model period. Can also visualize this on a TAZ to TAZ level. In this case, just to keep it simple, it's only showing the number of vehicles between each of the from and to TAZs. This one is aggregated to the daily level. Again, we can always split these into smaller time frames. And again, you have vehicles, we can do VMT between zones, VHT, delay experience between vehicles going from one to another, et cetera, et cetera. You can see number of, various histograms are available, such as this one, just simply the number of trips departing. You can see it does match the sort of usual weekday pattern. Additionally, as part of the development of this, we added on a newly developed air quality module, which is a supplemental project. It matches the vehicle types in the DTA to MOVE's source types, MOVE's being the EPA's air quality model. Then records the activity of all of those vehicles during the model run, generates an input file for MOVE's with all of the information that it needs to run the air quality analysis for that. Looking at potential use cases for this, first of all, we're looking at using it for the TIP and RMAP to produce enhanced regional metrics. As well, again, we just saw the MOVE's air quality outputs. Lets us do enhanced time of day metrics because this now gives us continuous flows versus just the 4 periods. as well as dynamic over each of those 4 periods versus just a sort of period average that the static models generate. Because the models are or the vehicles are explicitly modeled, this also has some potential use for special event planning, queuing on roads, either entering or exiting a venue, the physical capacity constraints for the roadway network around garages, parking lots, entry and exit points, that sort of thing. This also lets us do a more detailed capacity analysis, as well as to closely examine the impacts of roadway projects. That brings me to the end of my presentations. If you have any questions or comments, I think we have time for that.
Yep. Fantastic, James. Great overview. Appreciate you going into the weeds on all that stuff. Any questions from the committee members on the stuff that James presented, what he talked about, and what he went over?
Blake Olson here. Can you hear me?
Yep, got you loud and clear. Go for it, man.
Great job, James. Thank you. I was just curious, how will the model, I don't know how to ask this question, but I'll try. How will the model react or how will it be calibrated when the 6th Street underpass opens?
6th Street, like the downtown links?
Downtown links, yep.
How will it, well, so let's see if I can go back to one of the slides where I have the network. Okay, here. So on this one, on this one, I don't care if it plays or not. So this, you can see right now, this one is the current condition with that roadway segment between 6th and Stone and the other half of 6th not yet open. But this, all it takes to put that in is to draw in and define the link, as well as any intersection controls that would exist there. So once that roadway goes in, it would just realize that there's one more road in there, and the vehicles would examine and decide whether or not to use that road based on their experience travel times during the simulation.
Just want to add on it and James's answer. The model was calibrated with and all the GPS data, like a connected vehicle data. The behavior is more like just a general. And also we have the application and some of the scenarios we developed together with this, including like a downtown links. That would be a kind of just our and the scenario would be fair enough to test. So that's actually just doable to just show the impact and based on the general assumption like that.
Cool, thank you.
Oh, thank you, guys. Any other questions for James or Hinsu? As always, if you guys think of it later on, feel free to reach out. James, Hinsu, they're good with if they contact you directly following this, if they got additional stuff they want to ask about, correct?
Yep.
You guys are okay with that? Good deal. Okay.
All right, thank you.
No, James, thanks a million for doing this, man. I really appreciate you hanging in there and sticking with us, trying to get this scheduled. So appreciate the update. Next item up, and I'm going to try to fly through the rest of these items fairly quickly. Gabe, the floor is yours. What do you got going on? What would you like to share with the group for update activities from safety from our end?
Thanks, Rick. Yeah, I know we're getting kind of short on time, so I'll try and make this brief. Starting with the road safety assessments, going from small to large, we completed our road safety assessment mini RSA for the town of Marana. Richard and I, Dr. Nasty and I were there doing that. That was on Camino de Mañana, working with with Dion and Mike Hendricks. So appreciate that collaboration. We've started in earnest on the First Avenue, what I'm calling a multi-phase design stage RSA. We're jumping in a little bit earlier in the process. We're looking at the design plans at 15%, but we're going to be looking through 30% and beyond. So we're in the TAC meetings with the design team and with the city. So we're working hand in hand with that, but we really have gotten started in earnest on some field work. We really spent a lot of time out there last week. So if anybody has any questions about that, obviously, please let me know. Safety Explorer has been updated in a couple of significant ways. First and foremost, we finally, after a lot of back and forth with ADOT and the county and some data issues, we have the 2024 data up and running. So that is good to go. You can hop on the site and do that. If you do hop on the site, you'll also notice that you'll get directed to our new platform. It's basically the same thing, but we had to update it within the Esri infrastructure. So yeah, it's got basically all the bells and whistles and all the things that you know and love in Safety Explorer. So that hasn't changed. And yeah, I'll let the county talk more about SS4A, but yeah, we've been working with them on that, and they've been making some great strides there. The last thing I want to let folks know is that FHWA reached out to me. Their Arizona division is planning a workshop they want to hold in the PAG region. They've held the workshop already in Phoenix and Flagstaff areas. This will be a traffic safety workshop for law enforcement, engineers, and EMS. This is going to be focused on those folks that work in the PAG region and the surrounding areas. The purpose of the workshop is to highlight and encourage collaboration among these three disciplines to eliminate serious injury and fatal crashes by incorporating the safe system approach. I don't think FHWA is on the call, last I checked. Otherwise, I'd let Glenn speak more to that, but I will say kind of keep an eye out for that. We're shooting for probably an April workshop that we will be hosting. So again, keep your eyes out for that. We'll keep you posted as we learn more and get a date. And that's it for me.
Got it. Great. Anybody got any questions for Gabe?
I have a question for Gabe.
Go for it.
Gabe, any information you have on that workshop? As soon as you could send it to me, I'll forward it to the police department to get them on board as early as possible. I think this is a really good idea. I've noticed that enforcement tends to have a negative reaction to the safe system approach, and I think the reason may be because when they hear safe system approach, they hear vision zero, and not the same thing, obviously. So I think it's real important we get the enforcement people on board as soon as possible.
I will do, Dion, and thanks for that. Yeah, I find that sometimes there is sort of a disconnect with our LE partners and sort of seeing that that safe system approach and that traffic safety connection. Not that they don't see how important it is and they're busting their hides to help out, but I think this is going to be an important workshop to bring everybody together and hopefully get us on the same page. So I'll let you know ASAP.
Any other questions for Gabe? Okay, seeing none, I'm going to jump into now the jurisdiction side. I'm going to let Gabe segue. Lauren wasn't able to make it, but she did send this to me, so I'll read you her updates on the SS4A activities. Under the heading of community outreach, they had a public feedback period for the survey interactive map that concluded October 31st. They collected community feedback on transportation safety throughout Pima County using social media posts, flyers, news release, op-ed, newsletter articles, and in-person outreach at both Tucson Meet Yourself and Cyclovia to increase the public awareness of the survey interactive map. So basically highlight what was going on. They've had benchmarking sessions under that heading conducted with each jurisdictional partner and then aimed to assess and strengthen the integration of the safe systems elements with the agency processes. Under the heading of Safety Explorer discussion, they held with key power users from each agency to get input on that and focused on identifying and recommending new features to improve the functionality and the overall usability. And then under the heading of next steps, their team is going to be reviewing, compiling, and reporting findings from the community outreach, benchmarking sessions, and the Safety Explorer discussions, and then advancing the development of the Safety Performance Functions, or SPF. So that's the update from Lauren on that major activity. Any other jurisdiction activities related to safety that anybody wants to share?
Rick, Town of Marana, we on October 27th turned on the traffic signal at Dove Mountain and Moore Road, and that was an HSIP funded traffic signal. So it's now been completed and only gotten positive feedback from the residents in the area.
Fantastic, cool, and thank you. Okay. Any others? Cheryl, go for it.
So we did the HSIP projects, flashing yellow arrows at the intersections of Tangerine with La Cañada and the Rancho Vistoso and First Avenue. It went well, the contractor went well and everything. We did have some feedback that we didn't expect. We do have that signaling coordination on La Cañada, and so it did cut some turn phases short. We also implemented the red arrow for the pedestrians when they're crossing. And so we got some feedback on that too, that the public was afraid that the signal was not operating properly because it went from a red arrow to a green arrow. So a little bit of education there.
But outside of that, everything else is kind of working like you'd hoped, at least initially.
Yep.
Okay. Good deal. Good to hear. Anybody else? Okay, seeing none, we'll move into the MaxView Kinetics updates. We don't have Francisco, who usually provides the bulk of this one. So anybody else got any updates or anything else they want to share on this one? If not, without Francisco, and I did not think to reach out to him in advance. So,
Rick, this is Dion.
go for it.
The IT department at Town of Marana has been working with Q-Free, the company that makes the Kinetic software. So they've been working on establishing a VPN so that we could gain access to the Kinetic system. So that there's actually been some progress on that front. We've had to renumber our signals or change up the IP addressing so there weren't any conflicts, but we got an okay with our scheme. And that's moving ahead slowly, but with some progress, which is more than I've been seeing before. So happy about that.
No, that's good. I think the entire time I've been here, you've talked about how that's an effort going forward. So good to hear you're making the progress on that. Okay. Any others from anybody else? And then I'll close it out with our last item, which is just general traffic signal communications. Any updates the group wants to share on that for the good of the anybody want to share anything on that for the good of the group with overall communication systems? Okay, seeing none. All right. Well, gang, really appreciate your time, your effort, attendance on this, especially here are two featured speakers with James and Seth. Guys, really appreciate you guys doing that for us and taking us into the weeds on all that. I think it's fantastic information to see. As always, reach out, follow up if you got anything else. Go ahead and set aside our January timeframe. I don't think we'll be able to meet in December. We'll continue to stick with the every other month cycle for the time being. But we'll also see how things are going as we're juggling around because here we're looking to bring some different committee efforts on board starting at the beginning of the new year. So I'll keep you guys posted on that. and we'll stay virtual for at least the immediate future on that. So, gang, always a pleasure. Be good, be well. Have a good Thanksgiving holiday for those of you if I don't see you. And I'm going to stand the meeting down and adjourn at 10:27. So, everybody be good, take care, be safe, and we'll talk to you soon.
Thanks, Rick.
Good one.
Thanks all.
Take care
Thank you.
all.
Thanks, everyone.